It is the Demons from Outer Space, episode 116. Dylan McCandless, Super DM 64. He has arisen from the depths of Tennessee to join us.
The depths of Tennessee. Yes, I am here, indeed.
Do you live in the southern part of Tennessee or the northern part of Tennessee?
I'm right smack dab in the middle, actually.
Which are you in the? I remember it's more of a deal of you being in the eastern or western part, right? And you're in the western part?
No, I'm in Middle Tennessee. There are three sections of Tennessee. There's East Tennessee, West Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee. And this means nothing to anybody unless you actually lived in Tennessee.
We should do a whole episode about the geography of Tennessee.
And where my town, Murfreesboro, there's actually there's a plaque somewhere that it's the actual.
That episode is now apparently. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
There's a plaque somewhere because somewhere in my town, I don't remember the exact spot. Is like the exact geographical center of Tennessee. So I'm in the fucking middle. The town actually used to be the capital a long time ago because it was in the middle. And then they moved it to Nashville.
Then they stopped giving a fuck about that kind of archaic nonsense.
Well, I mean, it's a good idea to have a capital sort of in the center because it centralizes everything. But they moved it to Nashville because Nashville is A, not that far away from Tennessee, so kind of just off the middle. And B, did I say not that far away from Tennessee? Not that far away from Murfreesboro, so it's still close to the middle. It's only 30 miles away to the south, I believe. But B, it's also because of the river, so trade and shit. And that's how that happened.
Do you think that being slightly off-center is just cooler, so that's ultimately why they did it? Like, being in the middle is a little square, it's a little, like, kind of basic.
No, I'm pretty sure it's the river. Nah.
Well, as long as you're sure. As long as we can wrap up that truly integral little exploration of the geographical history of Tennessee, which I certainly found informative. I hope everybody else did. But we do have...
It's good to have it's nice to have a good river, for the slave boats to come in on,
Right, of course.
Helpful.
Hey, man, at one point the Hudson was good for that, but, then they just started polluting it. Anyway, so it's going to be a science week this week, as we've sort of started off on. We have many things to discuss. Many things have happened in the last, week or so that have made this very necessary to do. In prior weeks, I was like, we're not going to do it yet. We're going to talk about Draculas because I didn't think there was enough material to cover. But then as soon as we started talking about the Draculas, there was enough material to cover. So here we are. And we're ready. Dylan, are you ready?
Fucking, yeah.
All right, we're ready. Cool. Oh, interactive map shows where you... Oh, God. Hang on, I gotta start over. Interactive map shows where you'd...
Oh, they said where Jews. I'm like, where the Jews?
Fuck! Interactive map shows where you'd pop up if you dug straight through the earth.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so we're gonna do it. So I guess the idea basically is if you dug straight through the earth, where would you be on the other side? Which is interesting. So it does actually kind of show mine right here. So hang on, how do I actually want to get it?
I really hope that mine is China. I need that to be true on a deep level.
Mine's off the west coast of Australia. Here, I'll send you a link to the article so you can do it. But, obviously the whole idea here is that, there was always the joke of if you dig, you'll dig straight to China. Which I don't think is true, but it was always something that your dad would joke about. So, not my dad, your dad. Not Dylan's dad, your dad.
It depends on where you are. I think actually to get to China you have to burrow from somewhere in South America. I think.
No, but you would never get there though. Is the point? You would die because you could not dig through the Earth's core, and you can't really dig around it because at that point you just might as well go above, because then you're not digging down.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, all right. Cool.
Theoretically, if you could.
If you were Superman, you could go to China from, some point in America. Or, some point in England, I guess? No, not in England. I guess it would be
I'm
something.
pretty sure it's in South America. I believe that was a plot point in the limited star series Torchwood Miracle Day.
Oh my god, it was in a thing. It was in a Doctor Who thing. There you go. That's always the place where we can go for answers. But I want an answer as to where you're going to end up. So your Facebook Messenger is taking forever to open, but now it is. There you go.
Where I'm going to end up specifically.
Yes, I want to know. I want to know. Will you show me? Sorry. So there's a little link in blue at the bottom of the big picture at the top. So just click there, and that'll give you all the info. As for the article itself, it pretty much just says everything I just said. And apparently the closest place where you can find dry land is near Fort McMurray in Canada, which places you on one of the Heard Islands near McDonald Islands, which is somewhere in the world that I am unfamiliar with. The latitude and longitude is not going to help us at all, so I'm not even going to bother saying it, but it's far away.
Wonderful.
I'm glad we established that. So, Dylan, did you find out where you're going?
Not yet. I'm working on it.
Oh, God.
That was a stunning bit of journalism there, Bill.
You're welcome. I mean, it wasn't so much journalism as I read. I didn't even really read any part of the article. I just more was like, hey, here's this thing. And then I read one very specific part of it to find out one very specific piece of information. Because I guess the idea is, if you dig down, most of the time you're going to hit water on the other side. Like, just because most of the earth is covered in water. So,
how does this work? How do I do it?
You just click on the blue link at the bottom of the picture at the top of the IFL Science page, and then it'll take you right to the place, and then it'll just show you what you need to see, because it'll pick up your geographical location if you have that turned on, which I do, because I don't mind Big Brother watching me, and then it'll tell you where you would end up if you dug straight down. Were those instructions clear enough for you?
Yes. Hold on. I'm
Good.
just trying to zoom in on my...
You're more apt than the trainees that I've trained in my job. No. Yeah, as if one of them is going to listen to this. And know specifically who I'm talking about.
I'm in the Indian Ocean.
Are you a good swimmer?
Somewhere between Madagascar and Australia. Closer to Australia than Madagascar, though.
Are you a good swimmer, D?
Decent.
I see.
I float. I got a lot of blubber.
So you're not a good swimmer, you just float. Those are not the same thing.
Well, once you're floating, all you have to do is move your arms and legs, and you're swimming. See?
Your logic is deathly, sir. I
used to be a decent swimmer. I just haven't done it in a long time, so... As to am I...
Was the last time you swam at my house when we went in my pool? Like 3 years ago?
I don't really consider that swimming.
You were buoyant in water, so according to your definition, I think that's swimming.
No, because that's just standing in water. Those little above-ground pools. Even when I was like 7, I used to go to my aunt and uncle's house, and they had one of those pools, and I would just fucking walk around in it. There was no swimming involved.
You have to create the swimming. That's what I do in it. You just kind of you lay yourself up and you just kind of paddle around like a madman. It's great. It's good exercise.
I just stood in place and occasionally swatted that pool cleaning thing away from me.
You know how to have a good time. You know that. Dylan, I think we should move on, don't you?
Yeah. Where'd you say you wound up?
Oh, fuck, I don't remember either. Let me look again. Hang on. Because this is riveting enough, so... Oh, you know what? I remember I couldn't find the actual... I have to look up the coordinates. Oh, no, I'm off the west coast of Australia, so I'm in the Indian Ocean as well, actually.
Wonderful.
Southwest, to be precise, if you want to get really... geographic. So I really
we
like.
can center of the planet, and we'll drown together. That's lovely.
What? We're gonna all drown together? Is that what you said?
If we both did this, we would drown because we would wind up in the Indian Ocean.
I mean, I guess. Presumably,
That would be after.
Why wouldn't we bring scuba tanks? Like we have prior knowledge. Why would we not prepare for that? Like you fucking psycho. Like,
Well, see, it's all a bit. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. I'm a little scared now that you're trying to kill me.
It's all a bit
drowning me
academic.
by talking me into, because you know what, man, you get me in the right mood. If I'm a little high, you'll be like, "Hey, Bill, let's dig to the center of the earth." I'll be like, "All right," and then we'll do it. And then I won't remember to bring the scuba gear. That's gonna have to be you going, "Bill, we really should bring some scuba gear." We went on that weird shady website via IFL Science. We know where we're gonna end up. We're gonna be in water. Like we should bring scuba tanks. Like that's gonna be on you. I just want you to know that.
See, the whole thing is a bit academic at this point because, unfortunately, we would never get through the magma.
Well, no. We definitely would not.
Like, forget the Earth's core. What about the mantle? That's a whole lot of lava.
We wouldn't even
Darth Vader.
we wouldn't even get through like the bed, not even the bedrock, the fucking like the sedimentary stone. Whatever.
Presuming we had presume that we had
A shovel.
for the sake of argument, presume that we had some sort of a digging machine, like some journey to the center of the earth type shit.
Like a fucking
Still, we get
Gotango-esque
the mantle
drill,
to fuck.
an Atragon-esque drill.
Yeah, something akin to that.
I see.
Think of the shit from Disney's Atlantis, the Lost Continent, or whatever.
Oh, I didn't want to think about that, but you made me, so I did. That's a good movie, though.
It is it's a pretty underrated movie.
Very underrated.
It's sort of forgotten, you know.
Not by me. Tour is shocked after quote-unquote beached whale shows up in Paris. I want to see what the quotes are for. That's ultimately why I clicked on this article. People in Paris were surprised.
Why is it a quote-unquote beached whale?
Yeah, because I'm looking at it. It's a beached fucking whale.
It looks pretty beached.
You know what? It's not on a beach. It's on like a sidewalk.
Oh, so they're just getting like really fucking like specific here.
They're getting technical with their beached whale. Because it's not on a beach. Well, yeah. Well, what is that? A sidewalked whale?
Sidewalked whale.
What is the river that this thing came out of? People in Paris were surprised earlier this week after a quote-unquote beached whale showed up on the banks of the River Seine. Passerby were greeted by what appeared to be a dead sperm whale cordoned off from the public. There were forensic scientists gathered around the whale to study it. It was a pretty strange sight, I would have to agree. Yeah, so it's a stranded whale.
A stranded whale.
Well, did it die? Like, did you die?
He had a whale of a time, I'll tell you that much.
Wait, is it fake? It might be fake, actually. I was scanning the bottom of this article. It is, in fact, an art installation. The 17-meter, 55-foot quote-unquote whale was constructed overnight by Captain Boomer Collective. The team of Belgian artists placed the whale there to raise awareness about the humans destroying the environment. Fucking hippie assholes ruined my funny story. I had a good title for this podcast, Sidewalked Whale. Now it's hippie dippy art nonsense. Can you believe this shit?
This is almost as disappointing as when that article about the guy in Florida who got caught trying to rape the alligator turned out to be fake news.
Why was that fake again?
Yeah, it was just a fake story, like it didn't happen.
I see. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit, and I hate it. Dylan, let's go kill the environment more now. Let's go just like dump toxic waste on flowers, like people's gardens and shit. Like, let's piss them off. Like, I want people to know I'm upset.
I'm certainly doing my part. every day. I'm like, Earth, who needs it?
Evidence for unknown ancient quote-unquote ghost hominin species found in our spit. You ready?
The quote-unquote IFL science. Just stop it.
I feel like they're integral.
Is this going to be an art installation?
I really hope not. Like, I really hope this ancient hominin that was found in spit doesn't turn out to be like some kind of artistic expression of like, hey, don't kill the koalas or whatever. Are the koalas endangered?
Probably.
Most animals are endangered. I mean, 98% of all animal life is extinct, so you know that's a thing.
I mean, they're in Australia. Their life is constant danger.
That's true.
It's a terrible place to
Apparently their biggest danger is chlamydia down there.
Oh.
That's their biggest risk. It's not even like, oi, let's go kill ourselves some koalas. It's like, oh god, we're being killed by STDs.
That's interesting. Men at work gave me the idea that it was the thunder that was their biggest problem down in Australia. Turns out it's chlamydia.
It's not. It's definitely not the thunder. It's definitely the chlamydia. Even the crocodiles are starting to get it from the koalas. It's weird. So our spit may reveal the echoes of an ancient quote-unquote ghost hominin species. New research has uncovered evidence that suggests the ancestors of sub-Saharan people may have interbred with an as-yet unknown ancient hominin. So, ancient hominin. Different from a hominid?
What?
Is a hominin and a hominid different?
Is that what it says? Hominin?
Yeah, with an N at the end.
Huh, that's fucking weird. I've never seen that before.
Maybe that's more human, more specifically in the class of human relative, because that's what it says. I mean, it's a direct human relative that we don't know about that we fucked, apparently. The sub-Saharan people. I want to see the actual species and era, though. It's clearly in Africa, so it's clearly when we were still like hairy dudes in trees and shit. I want to know which species of ancient human we were at this point and which ones we were fucking, though.
It's also possible that hominin might be a typo.
It's consistent in the article, though.
Well, maybe the guy who wrote the article is an idiot. You know? I mean, read the credits on this article.
He seems like an idiot. Josh Davis, he's got a big dog in the picture. I think we've read his work before.
Oh, good. Is this article even real? Is this an art installation?
No, it's not an art installation. It's I'm just trying to read where the spit came in.
That is always where the story gets interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. Woo. Damn it, I hate when I sneeze on these things, because then I it's too short to edit it out, you know? Like, I hate it. Alright, I'm trying to find out. I can't see where the spit came in. Apparently they identified some kind of protein that's in human spit, though, in a fossil, and that's how they came to the conclusions that they came to. Because the proteins in the DNA that they extracted did not match any specific known hominid, or hominin, whichever the hell that means. Can you look that up, see if that's a thing? I'm starting to question it myself. But the idea is that there are other species out there. I mean, the wider implications of this article are obviously the more important thing here. I'm fascinated by the notion that there are other human relatives that we don't know about out there, and that there was a time where there was a vast majority of human species that we interbred with, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting idea, because we obviously don't have that now. I mean, there's just us, like, we're just people. Like, some of us look a little different, but that's just because of, like, where we're from. Like, these were different species, you know, like different kinds of humans that interbred. Like, there's the dwarf human, there's all kinds of different morphologically different.
So, from what Google is telling me, I think hominin is just more of a specific term. Because it says here, hominid, all modern and extinct great apes, gorillas, chimps, orangutans, and humans, and their immediate ancestors, not gibbons. Why not gibbons? And then hominin...
Yeah, that one story in the Planet of the Apes book would be really pissed.
Well, it is considered an ape. Just, I guess it's not considered a great ape, maybe. Hominin, any species of early human that is more closely related to humans than chimpanzees, including modern humans themselves.
So that's who was fucking and spitting in this story.
Yeah, because when you say hominid, a lot of times you're talking about like really old, fucking Sasquatch looking motherfuckers, Gigantopithecus and shit. Whereas hominin seems to be more specifically like the ones that are closer to us than to ape.
Right. That makes sense.
Caveman. Fred Flintstone, probably a hominin.
Likely. I mean, he definitely didn't look like Sasquatch.
It's really weird to think of the Flintstones in those terms.
It's odd to think of the Flintstones in any terms except, hey, that's a thing I used to watch when I was a kid. Do you remember how the kids never aged until they did, and they were like adults and they got their own spin-off?
Remember when the Rugrats grew up and it was fucking awful?
I didn't think that was awful. I enjoyed that when I was young.
Well, you were young. We were all idiots back then.
That's true. Dylan, there was a 6-legged piglet with 2 butts born in China.
Oh, good.
It was born in the wild and then captured in the Beijing Jilin province on June 22nd. It's pretty fucking wild looking.
Think what this could mean to science, Bill.
It looks like a Dr. Moreau looking thing for sure. Do you want me to send you a link?
Sure. It could mean actual advances in the field of multiple butts on animals.
So these genetic mutations, do you think...
That's really weird because there's this old episode of South Park where this crazy scientist is genetically engineering animals, and all he does is give them multiple asses. That's his MO. And here I have a baboon.
He was like a pre-human centipede.
Here I have a baboon with 6 asses. And they're like, what? Why? Okay.
Why that many? That's a lot. Oh, this pig had 6 legs and 2 butts, so he only had 2. He had a minimum amount of butts.
Does he have 2 buttholes or just 2 butts? Is it all?
Can you have a butt without a butthole, or is it just all thigh?
Yeah, because the butt cheeks themselves are all, that's a part of the butt. So I would assume that only
But
one
again,
of these
at that point, is it not just the thigh?
No. Because the thigh is more to the side.
I see.
I think.
Well, I think it's more I would assume that it would have 2 butts and 2 buttholes.
Because how would that work, though?
What do you mean, how would it work? He's got 6 legs. How does that work?
Well, legs are a little less complicated than this. Because the butthole, unless the second butthole just isn't attached to anything, there's no way he has 2.
Maybe it just farts.
intestines.
Maybe it just vibrates and maybe it talks.
I think that's how that works. The intestines have got to only be attached to one of these butts. How does that? Unless he's some sort of a weird conjoined twin, that could happen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Conjoined twins are a thing. So maybe this is a weird conjoined twin with only 1 head.
That's what I need to know. I need to know, is this a conjoined twin? Or is it one of those things where every now and then a 2-headed snake gets born? Or a frog that has a bunch of extra legs it can't use, you know what I mean?
Right. I don't know. All I know is that at some point we're going to weaponize them and use them in warfare.
I mean, that goes without saying.
So, all these genetic mutations,
my only question is he delicious?
We'll find out. But here's my question for you.
You can make a hell of a rump roast out of that guy.
All this genetic mutation stuff, again, it fascinates me. So I want to ask you this. Do you think that, these sudden freaks of natures that are born with fucking, 6 legs and fucking 2 heads and 2 buttholes and all this and 2 dicks, Do you think that that's like an indication? Well, it's not an indication of like of a past ancestor, obviously, because presumably we didn't have ancestors, and pigs didn't have ancestors with 6 legs and 2 butts or whatever. But it is a reflection of like a very recessive genes. You know, mutant genes are uncommon genes by definition. But you know how how much do you think these kinds of freaks of nature reflect that sort of element of our genealogy?
That's the interesting thing about mutation, though. It's something new that's sort of accidentally created, and sometimes it's beneficial, and sometimes it's not.
But isn't it
evolution itself is driven by these mutations? At some point, some horse-like creature started getting a longer neck, and then eventually you get a giraffe. You know what I mean? Like it's mutation is one of the driving forces behind evolution. That and natural selection kind of working in tandem, because natural selection is a very gradual process, and mutation is a bit quicker because it just sort of happens by accident. Then on the other hand, there's like mutations that cause you to have like fucking birth defects or weird ass diseases or cancer of the urethra or whatever the fuck it is, and then you just die slowly and painfully. So it just all depends.
So, anyway, why don't we move on to the next article then that we've established that pigs with 6 legs and 2 butts are going to be the way of the future. So, unless we can
You're reading a lot into that article and I don't think was there.
What?
I said you're reading a lot into this article that I don't think was there.
Well, I do hope that one day we'll be able to like control shit like that. Like, well, this kid would be better if it had 6 legs. Like, that would be awesome. Like, that we should be able to do that.
I'd like my son to have 2 butts. I think it would be very helpful.
I want him to have 2 buttholes as well. That's revolutionary. First,
that way, if he turns out gay, he can use one of them for the pooping and the other one just for fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to have those things segregated. First U.S. attempt to make genetically modified human embryos succeeds. It's 2017, and a long-ass fucking acronym, the extremely precise and easy-to-access gene editing technique, is all the rage, wiping out genetically inherited diseases and curing cancers within its reach.
Is this CRISPR? The one
CRISPR, yeah.
Yeah, this is the one that they've been using to like experiment on mice, and they've been able to do really weird shit, like make like wasps with red eyes and shit like that. But they've also been able to do like really beneficial shit. Like there's some evidence to suggest in mice that they've been able to cure them of like muscular dystrophy and shit like that.
Holy fuck! You told me about this. Yeah,
it's all very exciting. CRISPR is the wave of the future. CRISPR is what's going to allow the Jurassic Parks of the world to exist. So.
There's been rumors about Chinese researchers engaging in these sorts of experiments for some time now, but these embryos are thought to be unviable. What?
Chinese, oh no, burn it down.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I feel like I'm in 1958 again. Like, China is also engaging in similar experiments. They're like, we're all trying to fight the vice chairman, you know.
I'd like the human race to advance scientifically, but not if it's at the hands of the Chinese.
Canadians or Americans, that's it. Not even the British. Fuck them. I'll never forgive them for that Revolutionary War.
I say we take off and nuke the site from orbit.
It is truly the only way to be sure. They were unviable in China, though, Dylan. So fuck them. Last year, it emerged that a Swedish research team became the first in the world to use CRISPR on healthy human embryos, ones that will be terminated after 2 weeks. We talked about that.
You know what? We're not going to do this shit for a while. We got Trump in office. So if anybody's going to do it, let the Swedes do it. That's fine.
They did it. We talked about it on the podcast when they did it, and we were like, oh, they were terminated because they weren't allowed to go to term. and we talked about how maybe they should have just let it happen and see what happens.
Yeah. You go, Sweden. You pick up the slack on this.
Well,
research.
they didn't. They should have picked up the slack more realistically, but they didn't.
You keep at it. I'm fine with you guys doing it, just not China. You guys are white, so it's fine.
It's good that we're making the distinctions here. Now the Americans have finally joined in. D, that we're in the fight now. MIT researchers at the Oregon Health and Science University in Portland have changed the DNA of a large number of one-cell human embryos with CRISPR. This team have reportedly demonstrated that it's possible to use the technique to edit out genetic errors that will lead to debilitating conditions in later life. As with Swedish and Chinese experiments, these first American tests clearly show that the day the world's first CRISPR baby is born could be just around the corner. The results have not yet been published in a peer-reviewed journal, similar to the Swedish situation. It has been reported that no unintended genetic errors were introduced to the embryos during the procedure, as has been reported in previous cases. Perhaps erroneously, perhaps not, but the specific genetic errors and associated diseases that were edited out remain unknown. So that's potentially problematic. We don't know what exactly they fucking did. So they should release that before we get excited.
Now, speaking of peer-reviewed journals, did you hear about this guy that published a paper about midichlorians?
No.
This guy published a full-blown paper about midichlorians, even went so far as to cite Palpatine's speech from Revenge of the Sith. And he did it all to make a statement about how fucking easy it is to get your fucking thing reviewed in some of these journals, because some of them literally are just like, we'll totally publish your thing no matter what it is, as long as you pay us this fee. And so he literally just got this thing published.
That's insanity. My God, when did this happen?
I heard about it recently. I'm not sure exactly when it happened.
Oh my God. So he just said that midichlorians were a real thing, actually quoted Star Wars, and nobody noticed.
Yeah.
That's fucking... What kind of world are we living in?
If they did notice, they didn't give a shit, because this is one of those not... some of these journals are very strict, and it's all very nice and scientific, and you only get in based on the merit of your work. And other ones are like, hey, pay us a fee. We'll publish anything.
That sounds like more like the journal that I'd be running.
So he just did it to expose the fault in that system. So it's an interesting story, though. Carry on.
I agree. I mean, I was riveted. Extremely rare two-headed bat found in Brazil is both fascinating and creepy. I should definitely send you the link to this.
Oh, yeah, I love two-headed bats.
Very specifically. There you go, D.
One-headed bats are fine, but it's just been done.
Once you add the second head, it's suddenly a problem, you know. This handsome pair were found under a mango tree in the forests of Vienna, blah, 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 in South blah, blah, blah. Since their discovery in 2001, the male conjoined twins have been placed in a solution of 70% ethanol to help preserve their tissue. So they're dead, obviously, but they're being well preserved, waiting for proper scientific investigation. Fortunately, researchers from the State University of Northern Rio de Janeiro have finally taken up the honor of studying the truly precious specimen after spending years in the Laboratorio de Mastozoologica. The researchers believe... What?
That's a really cool two-headed bat, but if you ask me, what it really needs is a couple extra asses.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of looks like a sleepy King Ghidorah.
Also, is that a tail down there or a dick? Do you see that?
It could function as both. You don't know. You don't know what he's about. Where were we? Fortunately, they took up the cause. Great. The bats were either stillborn or died shortly after being born, as their shortly. I do that all the time. Fuck you. As their placenta was still attached to their shared body. However, out in the big bad world or Mother Nature, it's unlikely they would have survived longer than a few days anyway. We have no information, however, if this specimen was alive at the moment it was collected. The researchers explained in a recent study published in a journal that has a name that's in Spanish. The researchers took X-ray images below of the bats to reveal that they share 2 complete forelimbs and 2 complete hind limbs. Just like a regular bat, however, they have 2 separate spines that branch down into a singular lumbar region, the bottom of the spine. So, it's a normal bat except for the 2 heads and the 2 tails. I think it's got 2 tails. And it's got 2 spines. Or, like, 2 tops of the spines. So it's a perfect, like, 2-headed bat. Like, it's a proper, like, King Ghidorah in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah when he got his head blown off type of thing.
But it's only got 1 ass.
Apparently there's been 3 of these things found over the years.
Huh, so it's not an entirely uncommon mutation, then.
It's very common in America. 200,000 have been found, and 2,800 have been found in India. Why so many in the U.S.? Atomic mutations, you think?
All that nuclear power.
Yeah, right? All right. Dylan, I have some more info for you, some more bad news, some more...
Might have something to do with pollution. Because India has that one river that's, like, horribly polluted, and everybody drinks out of it, and, like, they get sick and die. Like,
oh, my God. What a mad world we live in. Horrible.
They're starving,
world.
but they get cows because religion.
Right. And they have a lot of them there, too, don't they?
There's, like, fucking cows everywhere.
They really should just have a fucking burger, realistically.
It's like I keep telling the people in the Middle East, I'm like, why don't you just fucking move? It's terrible there. Just go.
I don't disagree.
Go somewhere nice and tropical, and then fight over that. At least your fighting will be for a good cause.
Well, some people can't help it, man. They just have to see the 2-headed bats, and they have to wait it out. Did you hear about this Facebook AI that developed its own language?
Yeah.
So, the deal is...
The title of the article made it sound a little more dramatic than it really was. But yeah, essentially they started communicating with each other in a way that we could no longer interpret. By like...
The program's names were Bob and Alice.
The so-called new language was really just them repeating English words over and over again, and at first they thought it was some sort of a glitch, but then it turned out that they were like actually communicating this way through some sort of weird like code. I don't know.
Huh, that's crazy. Facebook pulled the plug on these negotiating bots. They explained that they wanted them to speak in English so others would understand them online, but also because they would never be able to keep up with the evolution of an AI-generated language. What do you think? Should AI be allowed to develop their own languages, or should they be allowed to follow, or should they only be allowed to follow the rules? That's fucking wild, son. So, who created the bots? Facebook? By accident? Or was it just some spam site that created them and then they ran off on their own?
It's Facebook, it seems like. All of these internet web companies are working on shit like this. Remember, Google had that crazy AI that was actually creating its own AI.
So let's read the conversation here. Can I, everything else? That's from Bob. That's good old Bob. And then Alice responds sexily, balls have 0 to me, 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 to me. That's fucking creepy as shit, Dylan. I got news for you. Don't you agree?
I suppose.
You suppose?
Well, I mean, it's creepy once you realize what they're actually doing, but it just sounds like a broken record. Like
that sounds creepy even outside. A broken record is creepy. I got news for you.
Yeah, who's creeped out by a broken record?
Me!
The fuck's it gonna do to you? It's broken.
Oh, so what? When it's fixed, when it's working, it'll kill you. But when it's broken, totally safe. I think it's scarier when it's broken, because then it's you ever hear the whole idea of like an animal is only dangerous when it's wounded? It's the same thing with a record.
Well, no, it's not, because the difference is it's a fucking record.
You know what? You know what? To be fair, I didn't think about that until you said it. But you make a valid argument.
A record is no threat to you, unless it's a Kiss record being played backwards, of course. Even
That's
when
what
it's
I'm
working.
fucking saying. Like, that shit'll fucking summon Satan, and he'll eat you.
No, it's all bullshit.
I'm glad you know. I'm glad you're sure. Like, as long as you're sure, I'm sure. So let me ask you the big question then. Do you think that these AIs should be allowed to develop in the same way that genetic research should be allowed to continue?
Should we develop AI? Yes, but fuck no, we shouldn't let them have their own language. They need to be tightly controlled.
I see. It's interesting how genetics, we should just like let them run wild, but the AI, like and the digital research has to be tightly controlled. Is it because it's all man-made, and because of that it's inherently unpredictable because it's all chaotic and we can't foresee what will come of our own doing? Like, why is it?
I wouldn't even go so far as to say what you were saying a minute ago, that if it's genetic research, just go hog wild. I mean, there are some dangers to be considered in that area. I mean, we've all seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
So we don't want to make smart apes. We don't want to make smart velociraptors.
And those things should be taken into
we don't want
consideration.
We don't want to create the virus from I Am Legend.
Yeah, and all that should be taken into consideration. The same fucking thing goes for this shit. I'm not one of these people that immediately, whenever they're like, oh, we've built a new robot that can go upstairs, I'm not one of these fucking guys that immediately jumps on the internet and goes, Skynet! The fucking Skynet!
It's the T-600! They got rubber skin now!
They're gonna get a phased plasma rifle with a 40-watt range. No, if there's any problem with franchises like the Terminator and the Matrix, it is sort of backed up the sort of technophobia that I think a lot of people already have anyway.
Yeah, totally, without question.
And then just accentuates it. And that sucks because while we do need to be wary of possible consequences, we also have to continue to evolve as a species and move forward technologically. So it should be viewed more as a cautionary. It's like Jurassic Park. Everybody's like, anytime you see a story about we're engineering a pig with 6 asses, they're like, oh, it's gonna be Jurassic Park.
And my only question is, how many fucking buttholes is it gonna have?
And I'm like, well, Jurassic Park isn't supposed to be... The message of Jurassic Park shouldn't be, don't do this shit. The message of Jurassic Park should be, hey...
I think part of the message of Jurassic Park is don't do this shit.
I don't see it that way. I see it more as, if you're gonna do this shit, be careful and take things into consideration.
But Dylan, I think the point of it is, don't make a fucking theme park and that you don't tell anybody about, and then you bring 4 people to it for a weekend, make everybody else leave, and then shut the place down and everybody dies.
Well, I'm not even talking about the theme park aspect necessarily. That part, yeah.
I think the point of Jurassic, I will agree with you that cloning dinosaurs is not forsaken by Jurassic Park. Exploitating the cloning of dinosaurs is forsaken by Jurassic Park. Because then look at the second book, what that's about. Then it's like, they don't even want you like cloning them for the purpose of like using them for cosmetic and medical research. Michael Crichton seems to be strictly like, hey, use them for science and nothing else.
Yeah. Realistically, we should probably try to clone some dinosaurs so that we can look at their DNA, because they might have some like proteins or shit that we don't have anymore that went extinct that could possibly like provide like cures to shit or something.
We just need their completed genome more than we need them out alive running around.
True.
It's almost like an autopsy on a dinosaur might be more valuable than like a walking alive one. Although not necessarily. You would want both.
What I really need is an army of supermen, but one step at a time.
Dinosaur will be way more useful than an army of Supermen. What are you gonna do with an army of Supermen? Who are you gonna fuck with that wouldn't make things 10 times worse?
If you have an army of Supermen?
Yeah, what are you gonna do with an army of Supermen that you can't do with a dinosaur?
You can't take over the world with a dinosaur.
I think you could do it with a few dinosaurs, a couple of dinosaurs.
No! There are guns! in the world. That's a thing that exists.
Oh, are they? I forgot about the guns. The dinosaurs can dodge the guns.
What's a velociraptor going to do against an AK?
Dodge the bullets.
I'll
train them. I'll be like, hey, do you see those? Do you see the orange stuff coming out of that? Run away from that. He'll be loyal to me, though. It'll be like the blue one in Jurassic World.
At that point, you might as well just use the dinosaur DNA to create an army of Supermen.
Well, would that be enough for you? Dinosaur-human hybrids, Jurassic Park 4 unmade style?
Possibly.
Or do you want? Or do you really want I want actual Superman flying around, heat visioning people in the desert, sending them flying through walls?
That's absurd. At the very least, Captain America, an army of Captain Americas.
Do you need an army of Captain America though? I think just maybe four Captain Americas. But maybe it should be like that Rick and Morty bit where it's there are 8 districts and 6 Jan Michael Vincents. Or no, I'm sorry, 8 Jan Michael Vincents, 16 districts, and that's how I think that's how it should be. You need the 8 Captain Americas. Now there's 8. To be stressing over the 16 districts, because otherwise there's no fun.
You're thinking too small, Bill. You would not make a good supervillain.
No. I would make a bad superhero as well, though. I make a good bystander. Scientists have just discovered a new species of sharks, and it glows.
That was a wonderful segue.
You're welcome. It is called the Etmopteris laliele, and it is a species. Oh God, I can't talk anymore. It is a species of lantern shark. It was reported in the Journal of Zootaxa. It weighs less than 900 grams. That's 2 pounds, so that's rather small. It glows in the dark. It was found.
What color of lantern is it?
Brown.
Oh, okay.
It's a very attractive lantern. So the new shark was first discovered 17 years ago. How is that new then?
I mean, it's not really.
It was only recently just published, though, is the idea.
But why did it take 17 years? It didn't take that long for Titanoboa.
No. It was discovered off the coast of Florida.
Took maybe 2 or 3 years for Titanoboa to hit the news or something like that.
Why did that take 2 or 3 years to prove it? To be sure.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, at first all they had was a spinal bone,
right? The vertebrae.
And they were like, "I think we got ourselves a big ass snake here." Right. There's a lot of investigation.
So why didn't they go out to the press like, "Hey, we found a really big snake"?
Yeah. But there's a lot of investigation that has to go into a thing like that before you can confirm that you have a new species. You can't just run out into science and be like, I found a bone, new snake. And
you can't run out into science like science is like a fucking field. It's just a bunch of old dithering men and women in suits just walking around like, oh, we are the science. I must say. Do you have any science for us? It's like, hey, I have some science. I'd like science for me, please.
See, I picture kind of like a big press conference. Just a bunch of scientists sitting around, and then somebody runs in and is like, I have a discovery.
And they're like, oh, yes, quite. I'd like to run in there one day. That's my dream. I don't know what I would discover. I'd discover a new species of brown-colored shark, presumably.
I have a new advancement in the field of science.
Well, Dylan, I have a shocking one for you. New evidence confirms the burning of Jerusalem by Babylonians described in the Bible really happened. Although I'm pretty sure that was already confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of shit in there that's historically accurate. This is not the bullshit. But there's a lot of stuff in there
that is not the bullshit. Yeah, this article has disappointed me. But archaeologists excavating the city of David in Jerusalem have discovered evidence that the passage of the Bible is historically accurate. I think it's more that what's described is dead on. I think is more of the idea of the article. Researchers at the site in Jerusalem have found many burnt artifacts dating from 2,600 years ago, confirming a reference in the Bible that describes the burning of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. Jerusalem is thought to have fallen around 587 BC. The findings, including burnt pottery, wood, a whole bunch of other shit, provide further evidence that the Babylonian burned all the houses of Jerusalem, as described in the book of Jeremiah. And there are all kinds of jars and shit that they found. All kinds of stuff that just makes the period that's described in the Bible lined up. And like certain pottery and stuff that's described in Bible stories like lines up with that time period. So ain't that wild? Ain't it wild that a book that was written by a bunch of dudes in togas, rigorously copied over and over again, has some credibility to it?
I mean, togas, not really, but
did I say togas? I meant to say
you did.
I meant to
togas.
I meant to say
Toga.
What would you describe them wearing? Like a duster? I don't know.
That's a coat. No, they had like, I don't know, like rags and
rags. Sheep's. We'll go with sheepskin. That's better than rags.
No, yeah, and I'm sure there are some people that are like, see, it's all true. I'm like, that's a stretch.
And I'm like,
it's like
I figured, a city burning is not the weird part of the Bible. Like, if they would have discovered, like, Jesus, like, in a fucking crypt, and he was still alive, and he had sunglasses on, like, what's up? Then I'd be like, oh, well, that's an interesting development.
Cities burning are pretty common to the period. I mean, we know for a fact that the Trojan War really happened. That doesn't lend credibility to the Odyssey.
More so to the Godzilla Odyssey, if anything.
It lends a bit to the Iliad, but that's a whole other echoworms. I mean, yeah, we found the ruins of Troy. Like it's not a mythological city. We know it really existed. But that doesn't mean Odysseus fucking went to an island with a cyclops and did all that shit. You know what I mean? Like you can't take the fact that one thing happened and then use that to extrapolate. Oh, it all happened.
I feel like that's the basis of all religion, though.
Pretty much.
In that sense, let's go to the religion of the dinosaurs. You know, there's all these people who believe that dinosaurs are still alive and that they never went extinct, and that proves that God's a thing because he wouldn't let his children die. So, Dylan, they found an extinct relic dinosaur-era plant in North America. That's not that weird. The article made it sound a lot... The heading made it sound a lot more ambiguous. They didn't mention it was a plant in the heading on Facebook. I fucking hate IFL Science tonight. They've really tickled my pickle this evening.
I mean, yeah, we find like fish that we thought were extinct all the time.
It's called Lycanthamus barbatos. It's the largest green algae, and it was discovered by Drexel University in Philadelphia. It was thought to have died out, but it was rediscovered in North America. It suggests two things. Either it has been brought here accidentally by incoming ships, or more interestingly, it may never have gone extinct in North America at all. So the idea is that they didn't even know that this plant grew in North America. It was supposed to be in other places in the world, but they just found it here, and they're like, what the fuck? This is supposed to be extinct. So maybe it existed in North America and just never went extinct.
Huh. Neat.
Very interesting that it was algae, because that shit's fucking gross! They should get some fish to clean it up!
Did you hear about this new fucking algae that the vegans are working on?
The vegans are working on it?
They have no, not vegan specifically, but I'm sure they'll be jumping all over this shit. There's an algae now that's been engineered, I forget where, that apparently tastes like bacon. Or no, it's a type of seaweed or something, and it tastes like bacon. So now we can't use the excuse of I couldn't be a vegetarian because I wouldn't be able to give up bacon.
That is not my excuse for not being a vegetarian. My excuse for not being a vegetarian is I don't want to be one.
My excuse for not being a vegetarian is I like meat. fuck off.
I think I said that. I think I said that a little less cynically. I just don't want to be one. I like a hamburger. I had one earlier. It was good.
There's nothing better than meat.
Yeah, it kind of is my favorite thing.
There's nothing tastier than meat. I'd rather have it like.
There is something I feel that's like the quality of a drug or an alcohol, something intoxicating in like the meat in the bloody center of something that was once alive.
You would think that like dessert and ice cream would be the tastiest like segment of the food period. Nah, man, meat. There's just something about a good hunk of bacon or like some.
For me, it's like a carb or a protein. That's what I need. I need a carb or a protein. You know, then I'll settle for a sugar or a vegetable or a fruit. But
you get like a nice smoked, well salted ham.
You get like a nice chicken parm roll. Oh, that's some good eating right there.
You get some fucking like big ass shrimp. Throw them on the barbie.
Nice like fucking steak, like a nice fucking shell steak. You ever have a shell steak, Dylan?
No.
Shell steak is it's surrounded by bone. You cut the meat out of the center of the bone. Oh my god, dude! Do you know that some people have never had filet mignon?
Like, how does that? Why?
I know, right? Like, have you ever had filet mignon?
Yeah, I mean
Is it not the greatest thing ever?
It's pretty good. It's pretty fucking good. I am a steak man.
Dylan, we should get some steaks right now. I would love to have a nice steak right now.
I would really like a steak. Yeah, that'd be good.
I went to Denny's once and I got a nice steak and I was really surprised. I was like, I didn't expect to get a good steak at Denny's.
Maybe a lobster. I wouldn't mind having a lobster. Fucking.
I've actually never had lobster.
Take a lobster, fucking shove it down in the boiling water, still kicking.
You're supposed to boil them alive, no? Isn't that part of the ritual of it?
Yeah, I don't know if that has like an effect on the taste or something.
You would assume so, given that it's like a thing that people do. Otherwise, it's just painfully cruel. But it's also fun. It's also fun though, isn't it? You know, you hear them scream.
Not really screaming. It's air escaping.
I know. I'm kidding.
They don't have pain receptors like we do.
They don't have vocal cords.
Well, exactly. That's even more relevant, isn't it?
They don't breathe like we do. They suck the air in through their fucking skin.
I think for some reason you want them to be as fresh as possible, and that extends to fucking...
Well, that's the idea with seafood in general, isn't it? Isn't it why it's like, oh, this was swimming this morning. That's how you know it's good.
Yeah.
I've only ever eaten fish that I've caught. I've never eaten fish that I haven't caught.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never caught a fish.
I have. I caught a shark once. I told you that story.
Actually, no, that's not true. I did catch a fish once. We threw it back though.
Was it an STD? Like,
it was not a very big fish, so eating it wouldn't have been worth the trouble. And also, why would I clean a fish when I can go buy fish that are already dead and cooked? You know,
like because they're not as good.
I don't want to do all that shit. I don't want to go through all that prep.
This conversation is making me very hungry. We need to change it.
I'm not even that big on fish, so like, you know, why would I go through all that trouble? Like, fish is fine. You know what I mean? It's not something I'm gonna jump through a hoop for.
Dylan, I have a trilogy of concluding articles for us. Are you ready?
Fuck yeah, let's.
NASA.
I'm gonna need to go get food after this.
Yeah, me too. I'm very hungry. I think we're gonna have to put off doing those commentaries because I'm starving. NASA uses asteroid flyby to test planetary defense network. NASA is stretching its muscles of how to respond to a threatening asteroid by having its network of observatories track a real asteroid as if it was on a collision course with our planet. The object, called 2012 TC4, is not a threat and will whiz above our skies on October 12th, 2017. Great. So let's all look up. That was on the release date of Shin Godzilla, so we can all celebrate at them.
Don't act like you're not really developing this in case aliens show up, NASA.
Wasn't there also an article recently about like, oh, we're giving people the job to defend us from aliens? But I'm pretty sure it's just monitoring SETI, though, isn't it?
Probably something like that.
Like people at the beginning of Independence Day, like just sitting there, like playing golf.
Yeah, listening to "It's the End of the World as We Know It" by REM. No, but if they're like setting up like a real life like Men in Black type situation, like where do I sign up? Like,
Yeah, oh my god, I would totally join the Men in Black. Just to lose my fucking identity. God, who wants to be Bill Wurster, aka Zazubaar, these days? My god.
you could be Agent Z.
Oh my, no, I don't want to be Agent W. That's so much.
Your first adventure will be really good, and then the second one will be not so good, and then the third one will be okay, but it'll be really confusing to travel.
You like Men in Black 3 more than Men in Black 2?
I haven't seen Men in Black 2 in a while, to be fair, and I just saw Men in Black 3 for the second time in my life very recently. So at the moment, I have a better impression of... I don't remember Men in Black 2. I remember liking the villain.
Yeah, the sexy lady, yeah.
Yeah, for those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, that was why I liked her when I was a kid, yeah. She ate somebody at the beginning of the movie. I always remember that. That fucked with me. I was like, what the fuck? There's like a dude dead inside of her. Like that's not how that's supposed to work.
It's like people hate T3. I'm like, yeah, I get it. T3's not that good, but
T3's not that bad though. T3. Have we talked about how Salvation is not is worse than T3?
Yeah, I would agree. And don't you kind of like Salvation? Isn't that a thing that you?
I like Salvation more than most. I just think that Terminator 3 is more entertaining. I think that Terminator Salvation is a better concept, but on an execution level, Terminator 3 is definitely a better movie.
As much fun as I had watching it in the theater, I think it's no stretch to say that Genesis is the worst.
Right? Yes.
Like on a purely technical level.
Yeah, without question.
I'd probably rather rewatch it than Salvation, just because there's some more interesting...
that's the thing. I would probably rather. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's also a better concept than both of them, though. T3 and Salvation.
T3's got some really nice concepts within it, though. Like I liked seeing the beginnings of Skynet. I like that that deleted scene where you find out about how the T-800 was manufactured. Sergeant Candy or whatever his name was. That was funny shit. But also seeing the T1s, like that was like holy shit. Yeah.
So apparently we shouldn't get too excited about going on Armageddon on an asteroid, because apparently we have no means to actually meet the asteroid in space and avert the collision. All we know from this test is that we can track it exactly to where it's going to go. And we can also figure out exactly how big it is.
We just need to arm satellites. I know that's like banned, but like specifically for defense from space things, not for use in war. You know what I mean? Like we need, and then maybe for war, well, we can break that contract eventually. No, we just need like armed like defense platforms orbiting the planet, ready to shoot aliens in the face.
So
also asteroids.
Ugh, man. So here's something to offset that disappointment. Baby born pregnant with his own twin brother. This isn't what it says, though. It's a lot sadder than that. It's pretty much just a baby was born with the fetal sac of what could have been his twin brother. He obviously absorbed it at some point during development. And then it stopped developing, obviously, because it was no longer being sustained by the mother.
Did you ever hear that story about how apparently Elvis had a twin that he absorbed in the womb?
Yeah. I have a cousin where that happened.
It's fucking crazy.
It is wild shit.
I ate... Like, you could be like, I ate my sister.
That's exactly what happened, though. Well, it's not eating as much as it is more like... It's more like a perfect cell kind of thing.
Yeah. Imperfect cell.
Yeah, I guess it is more imperfect cell.
Which, that's worse. That's some creepy shit.
That is some very... You don't want to be like first form cell, though.
I'd be more willing to accept the baby eating the other baby because it's a baby. It doesn't know what it's doing. But start throwing some imperfect cell shit in here. This just got weird.
We're gonna start drinking people. It's wild shit, bro. I think the malleability of the human body and just life in general always astounds me. Like I just think that CRISPR and Jurassic Park and all that shit, it's so much more feasible than we give it credit for, because of terrible, horrible stories like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, CRISPR, super feasible because it's already happening. But yeah, Jurassic Park could potentially happen. I mean, it's only the only obstacle really. Well, there's two obstacles. One is obtaining good genetic material, which is tricky with dinosaurs, obviously, for reasons of decay. But then there's the second problem, which is what we have with the mammoths, which is we know theoretically how we could bring a clone mammoth to term. Executing that is a whole other animal, That's what they've been trying to work.
Right. Well, we'll just have to impregnate an elephant and see what happens, man. That's the only way you can fucking do it. But somebody will be like, oh, don't hurt the elephant. And I'm like, you know what? The elephant's had its run. It's time for the elephant to be impregnated alien style with a mammoth baby. A big trunk will wrap around the face and...
Dude, how great would it be if, like, a few hours later, a mammoth just burst out of the elephant's
like a fully grown mammoth. Bigger on the inside. Dylan, I actually don't have a third story. That was the last one, because the last one turned out to be another fake one. IFL Science really fucked up this week. I might have to start looking for a new venue of science. We'll have to see. But yeah. So, Dylan, that's actually going to do it for our science articles this week. So, damn, this was definitely a good one. We definitely got some stuff saved up in the recent weeks. Anything in particular jump out to you?
What?
Out of all the shit we discussed this week, anything in particular?
Oh, the merits of a good steak. That's
ultimately the merits of being a fucking meat eater, a carnivore. No, I would say that the CRISPR article really jumped out to me, for sure. As well as there was one we discussed early on, and the Facebook AI thing that fucking freaks me out. That whole idea of AI being able to communicate with each other.
Yeah, we gotta 86 that.
Oh, so there's one other thing I wanted to ask you then. Do you think that movies are ultimately going to destroy our ability to progress in science because we will be too afraid of it because of what we show in cinema and in any fiction?
No.
I don't think it'll ultimately do it, but the general public is certainly more wary of it. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's why it's like the balance that works out, You get the 5 or 6 people who are crazy enough to try it and are sort of inspired by the fictitious version that kind of warns against it, and then 65 million other people are going, don't do it.
It's like I was having a conversation recently with some family members about the head transplant that they're going to try and do in Russia. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah. And they couldn't wrap their heads around it, literally. And I was like, I didn't understand what was so hard for them to understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was like,
You're just like, they're going to take a dude's head and put it on another dude's body, and vice versa.
Like the way I explained it, I was like, it's like taking a motor out of one car and putting it in the other car. Like,
did you explain about how the time they did it with the monkey?
I did, yeah. But of course, that's not a very good example to use with people who don't understand this shit, because then you get to the part of the story where the monkey only survived for a few minutes on the table, and then
it was like 1970, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah, well, whatever. They're like, oh, they're doing some fucking Frankenstein shit, and I'm like, oh, God damn it.
I want to see a modern version of Frankenstein that isn't a remake of Frankenstein. Do you know what I mean?
Shin Frankenstein.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't want it to be Frankenstein. I want it to be like some kind of new idea that's the same idea. Like you take a person creating something that they think will be a great achievement for humanity, and it goes really bad. You know? Like sort of, I mean, many things throughout time have taken this idea and done new stuff with it. I want like a new one. I want the cutting edge 2017 version of that, though. You know?
Yeah, that was part of the idea from that idea that I've always had for like a War of the Gargantuas remake. Because the whole my whole thought process with that was always, there's no way you get away with the Frankenstein origin. So what you do is you connect it to Frankenstein thematically.
Yeah. And I think that that's all you would do if you were gonna do like, oh, I'm gonna do Frankenstein, but I'm gonna make it like an AI program that goes crazy and makes its own body or something, you know, like that would be like, what if you had like an AI program that genetically made its own body? That would be wild.
Like at the end of the day,
has that been done?
What?
AI program that then actually like creates its own body through pseudoscientific genetic means. Like actually like kind of constructs it Avatar style.
You wouldn't even need genetic means. You could do it through nanotechnology.
Like 3D printing.
Yeah.
Ooh. There you go. There's your modern day Frankenstein, kids. Somebody don't take that idea. We're gonna use that ourselves, you assholes.
If anything, I mean, if you think about it, most of these stories are basically Frankenstein. You know, Godzilla is basically a Frankenstein. Jurassic Park is basically
Jurassic
a Frankenstein.
Park. Yep.
A Frankenstein story.
Yeah. I mean, that's at the core of most great science fiction, sure.
At the end, in the end, Terminator is even kind of a Frankenstein story. You know, it's all this shit we've been talking about how, you know, people being too scared to advance scientifically because of shit they've seen in fiction. We really should blame it all on Mary Shelley.
Although, interestingly, she left out any kind of particulars as to how Victor would have created the monster so that nobody would try it.
Well, she also, I don't think she had the science. Did she have the scientific knowledge to even go into those particulars if she wanted to? Like, I don't think she was a Michael Crichton.
No, but I mean, I don't know if anybody did at that point. But she...
Well, it was based on this this phenomenon at the time called
Galvanism. There was a report.
Which...
There was a report that she based it on or whatever, some story.
Yeah, well, this was around the time that we discovered galvanism, which is the fact that you can expose dead tissue to electrical currents and then it moves because you're stimulating the nerve endings.
Right. Although electricity plays no specific role in her creating the monster, him creating the monster.
That was part of the I think that's why they sort of Hollywood and anybody who's ever adapted the story has used
for sure
because they know that galvanism was part of the.
It's like whenever somebody calls Dracula Vlad, Bram Stoker never came up with that part of it. He just took the name Dracula from that historical figure, you know? Like that's all like people reading more into it later, you know, and mixing the real life person with the fictional character. So it's a similar situation with the electricity and the Frankenstein monster. Like, it was a base inspiration that then got turned into like a crucial part of the mythology.
Yeah, but they were like traveling shows when this was discovered.
Yeah, that's how she became familiar with it. Yeah,
people would go around into towns with cow heads on tables and then stick an electrode up to it and make the tongue wiggle, and people in the audience would fucking faint and shit.
You know, and this is this is around the end of the time where you've got oh, I cut that guy's head off and he winked at me. Or even more dumb than that, bodies running around and dancing after heads have been decapitated. Those were stories that were very popular in the 17th and 16th century, you know?
Yeah.
But less so in the 19th and 20th century, obviously.
Somebody saw that happen with a chicken and thought that could totally happen with a human, and it's a bit different.
Yeah. Well, people would come from beheading saying it had, obviously fucking lying.
It winked at me.
The wink, I believe more. I mean, that could just be like a reflex motor function. It probably wasn't a wink. It was probably just a blink with one eye that just is perceived as a wink.
A lot of it can be explained that way, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if a body moved without a head and did do something like a dance, you would just feel like that is a crazy post-mortem reflex, but that's all it is.
There are some stories about like dead bodies like breathing and all that is, you know, the theory is it's just gas building up in the chest cavity, which is a thing that happens to dead bodies. They like balloon, you know.
Right. That's fucking wild. My God.
It's like the old wives' tale about how your hair and nails keep growing after you die. It's just the skin shrinking away.
Ah, right.
So your hair and nails look longer, but they're not actually growing because nothing's growing because you're dead. There's no cellular activity.
It's like when they say that if you shave your mustache, it'll grow back thicker. Nope, it's just that it's rougher on the top because you shaved it.
Yeah.
Boom. Science. Dylan, I think we've had a successful run of educating these dumb fucks. Do you agree?
Yeah, you dumb fucks.
Now you're slightly smarter because we helped you out. We hope you're fucking grateful. And we hope that your gratefulness continues on to next week when we continue to be fucking assholes about talking about shit. So we're going to be... next week, did we have a set topic? I thought we did.
Weren't we gonna get you caught up on the old Who next week?
Was that the idea? Oh, all right. I guess. Yep. All right, so next week we'll talk about season 10 of Doctor Who. It's all said and done. We're waiting for the Christmas special. I guess it's time. So next week, season 10 of Doctor Who, Capaldi's swan song, and the one that I have put off for as long as possible.
I keep telling Bill it's actually a pretty strong season. He's just so anxious. He doesn't want to get his heart broken again.
Or more accurately, I just don't care. So we'll see how it goes next week.
Season 9 fucked with him.
It did. It really did. All right. So until next time, everyone, I am Bill Worcester, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
And I'm Super DM64.
And Dem Germans. Hey, I almost slipped into the old outro. It's a podcast, Colonel Hogan.